The Portland Trailblazers and Dame Lillard have some serious decisions that they need to make this offseason. We're going to talk about what those could be, what could be next up for Dame Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
All right, basketball fans. So, as many of you guys maybe have seen by now, Shams came out and said that the Trailblazers and Dame are expected to have serious conversations about what's next. And so, I had a video earlier in the season about why it's time that Portland and Dame finally part ways mutually. I know that both are in love with each other, but eventually you have to come to the decision that the relationship just ain't working. And so when you hear things, Casey Johnson wrote an article as well that, the Portland Trailblazers may be incentivized to remove their protections from the pick owed to the Bulls so they can have a little bit more flexibility in how and what moves they can make and how they can include first round picks in trade deals. But on top of that, they're getting back the Knicks pick, so they could use that to trade to the Bulls instead, to incentivize the Bulls to remove their protections from that pick. And then on top of that, they could remove their own protections from their pick. Probably not this season, considering they're going to have a lottery pick. They could say 2024, removing the protections. Bulls, you just get that pick outright. But anything that they do, the overarching thing with whatever the Portland Trailblazers do is what direction are you going to go in? With Dame Lillard still on your roster, with they've tried to continually retool that roster to get as close to contending as possible to pay respects to Dame Lillard. But when you look at it, it's just not a lot. It's probably not going to happen. At some point, you have to come to the realization that you are not going to be able to field a team good enough, probably, that is going to get you in championship contention within the window that you still have Dame Lillard. And especially if you do go in full rebuild, you have a 32-year-old point guard in Dame Lillard who still probably has longevity left to play in the NBA, but you have like Shaedon Sharpe, right? You have some young pieces on this team that you could look to try to build around them after adding a lottery piece this offseason. Right now, the Portland Trailblazers have remained and kept their foot in both worlds, trying to build around Dame and trying to maintain some semblance as well of future assets that you can build around if you need to, if Dame decides to leave, if you request a trade, or if you just decide to move him. So in those serious conversations that are bound to happen between Dame and the Trailblazers this offseason, and evaluating honestly what their potential, what the chances are that they're going to be able to field a team that is going to be good enough, right? That's going to be good enough. Keep in mind, to the Trailblazers' credit, they added talent to this team. When you look at Jeremy Grant bringing to the team, eventually Matisse Thybulle, Cam Reddish they brought to the team, right? Anthony Simons, they eventually moved off CJ McCollum because they brought in and drafted Anthony Simons and developed him into a player that he turned into, and he's a pretty good player, right? But you just don't have enough. And as disappointing as this season has been for many teams in the NBA, you have to look at the Portland Trailblazers, who had Dame come back, and just they sit at 32-43 with almost no chance to win or to even try to get into the play. The playoff race in the Western Conference is tight, but they've basically shut down Dame Lillard already. 4 out of their 5 starters are not playing. They've won 1 game out of the last 10, and they're currently on a 3-game losing streak. When you look at the Portland Trailblazers and where this franchise sits, right? Could they get lucky, right? Could a Jaylen Brown come available and Portland just tries to move the farm to try to get him to pair him with Dame Lillard? Something like that could happen. There's always a possibility, and that is why holding on to your future assets in the NBA, you just never know when you're going to be able to move those for a player. We've seen it happen year in and year out in the offseason. But when you're really looking at this Portland Trailblazers team, you have to ask yourself realistically, if what player is going to want to look at the Portland Trailblazers and say, no, that's where I want to go and play. I want to play with Dame, right? I'm sure there are players around the league that want to play with Dame, but I'm sure more likely than most of those, they want to recruit Dame into where they are and not necessarily go to Portland to play, right? And like I said, this isn't completely on this current version of the Trailblazers front office. For example, the lottery protected pick that has so just weird protections on it was done by the prior front office, not this current front office, but they've inherited that situation in which it severely limits their ability to move their future first round picks unless they push it so far off just because of how protected that Chicago Bulls, that pick to the Bulls is until 2028, right? Until 2028. That's still 5 more seasons. that you have those weird protections on that limit you because of the Stepien rule on how far you can move your own first round picks, because that pick can convey any time between now and then. So when you look at the Trailblazers and Dame Lillard having a conversation about both parties' future and what that could mean, we know Dame loves Portland. We know Portland loves Dame. They drafted him. They developed him. They saw him turn into a star there. But at some point, you have to come to just the realization that you are not going to get it done in the window that you've gotten done, and you've tried. You've tried. It's not like some franchises that just haven't really fielded a team or tried to make moves to really get there. They have tried. Some of those moves has worked. Some of those moves didn't. But when you're in a market already that isn't one of the markets that is going to be a big draw for free agents, you have a really good player in Dame Lillard, a star, right? Somebody who is definitely, I would love to see get into a place of being able to just go on a championship level run. But when you can have all that, if you're not building the team to get so, and you don't have a clear trajectory to get there either, you have to at some point cut your losses. And I would not be surprised if the Portland Trailblazers end up being in a similar situation as the Boston Celtics in this upcoming offseason, where you really have to evaluate and look, yeah, we have Dame. We love Dame. Dame's a star. But what's our chances to really win? Are we just going to keep doing this, right? And to their credit as well, to play devil's advocate to my own point, it's not like the Portland Trailblazers had Dame this season, and they're still going to wind up being a lottery team. So they could very well look and say, hey, we're just going to keep riding this out. Eventually, we're going to get enough lottery picks. Hopefully one of those guys hit. And maybe the last couple of years of Dame Lillard's career, we're able to field a team that he can get a title on, and he can ride off into the sunset, a Portland Trailblazer for life. Dame has played 58 games this season. That's still not a whole lot either, right? When you look at the 82-game season, Dame hasn't played more than 67. Well, he played 67 games in 2020-21, but he has not played more than 70 games since 2018-19 season. We are so far removed from Dame playing a high number of games that you also have to evaluate that. And that's not on Dame, right? He gives us all when he's on the basketball court. And as long as he's healthy, you know it's about to be Dame time at any given time, and that's going to put you in games. But when you're trying to build a franchise, when you're trying to build a winner, when you're looking at just the way that the NBA goes, you can only stay in this middle of the pack area so long before you have to make a decision on your future. So with the serious talks that Dame Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers are looking to have, I expect some part of those talks to be maybe exploring finally parting ways. And it's been a great career in Portland. He's one of Portland's best players of all time. But if you really want to salvage your franchise, and for Dame, if he really wants to be able to go after a title like he deserves, let's be clear here. Dame is a player that deserves to be able to go after a title and have a championship level team around him to truly go after that. And if it comes to the point of them having that conversation and they agree to part ways, it's going to make this upcoming offseason even more exciting than what it's already planned to be. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think that Dame and the Portland Trailblazers are destined to part ways as soon as this upcoming offseason? Or do you think they should continue rolling the dice and trying to continue build that team to see if they can build a team around Dame that can truly compete? Let me know what you guys think on all that down below. Make sure you're following us on every social media platform that we're on at NBA Central Pod. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so is 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything NBA related, soon to be. And we love you guys, man. Hey, I'll see you guys next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.